It's time for Local Talk here on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. And good morning. Welcome to Local Talk right here on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. Hope you're having a beautiful day. We've got a good show lined up for you here today. Vance Johnson, he is the candidate for Granville County Sheriff. Good morning to you. How are you today?
I'm great, Trey. How about you?
We are living the dream is what we like to say, living the dream. But tell us, before we kind of dive deep into the candidacy and in the election, really, if by chance somebody has not heard of Mr. Vance Johnson, let's kind of give a introduction to you, okay?
Oh, absolutely. I was born in Henderson, and I was in the military. I went into the military, served in Desert Storm in the Army. That's where I met my wonderful wife. She also was.
She is good people.
She was serving in the Army as well, so she's a veteran. And when I got out, my dad had gotten into law enforcement, and it kind of piqued my interest. At first, I thought he was nuts, right? And then it kind of piqued my interest, and I decided to put myself through basic law enforcement training. And it was exciting. It was something I really enjoyed. And, you know, I was the class leader in basic law enforcement. I had the highest academic honors. I knew I had to do that because I was putting myself through. I started with the Henderson Police Department in 93, graduated BLET in 92. In 93, and it was just kind of a whirlwind there. I've been, just about any kind of position you can dream of. I've been a canine officer, general investigator, drug investigator. And not only have I done those jobs, I've also been a commander of those units as well throughout time. I'm a canine instructor, a trainer. I'm an instructor. I was an instructor for over 2 decades with Vance Granville, taught in the basic law enforcement program. I've held every rank in law enforcement that there is, from sergeant all the way to chief. So I've seen those many different aspects of it. I've created a whole lot of different things that I thought was needed to be successful in the law enforcement field. I created a SWAT team because we needed that training and experience. I created the first highway interdiction team in this area many years ago. So, I've tried to be innovative in some of that stuff. I'm part of an accredited agency. It is the only one in this region. Accreditation really means a lot, and it means that we're following best police practices, and we have the best police policies, internationally. So that's critical. I live in Bullock, the big old town of Bullock.
That's right.
And I've got I've been married 33 years just the other day.
Well, congratulations.
We celebrated an anniversary. I've got 2 grown daughters who are just wonderful, great people, with 3 grandchildren. They're all Granville County residents.
Bless you.
So, what a great thing about a grandchild is you can have
you can send them home
and go home, right? Yeah.
I've been trying to do that to my son, to my grandparents. But we'll try to get that going. Again, Vance Johnson joins us here. He's a candidate for Granville County Sheriff on our Local Talk program, part of our Decision 2022, which is a special edition of the Local Talk program. So your extensive background in law enforcement, you've done just like you just mentioned, done a lot, not only for the community, but for the law enforcement itself. Now, talk about the more difficult times in that range of your professionalism, if you can.
Wow. Okay. So it's, you always have difficult things happen just about daily in the law enforcement field, right? I think that the things that stand out most would be dealing with children. I've had to deal with, child abuse cases and, the death of children and that type of thing is certainly things that weigh on you heavily. It's something that you don't want to experience. But, I think you go into those things knowing that you're the one to make it right and to do things the right way, to get justice for people and that type of thing. And you have to look at it that way. We've experienced a lot of ups and downs in law enforcement, and I've been in it a very long time. We've experienced a lot. And here recently, with the defund police movement, it's created quite a bit of uncertainty, I guess, in our field. It's very difficult to attract applicants because you can't go to a 20-year-old and say, hey, you want to be the police, because they're not interested. But it's also created actually more funding for police than most.
Wow.
Yeah, so
okay.
it had an opposite effect, because now we're having to, pay more benefits and salary and that type of thing to attract people, because honestly, you've got to have law enforcement.
Yeah, the right candidates for the job. Yeah.
Right. You have to have law enforcement. So, that's kind of been a struggle for law enforcement nationwide. It's all over. And I see some shifts there coming, maybe for the positive. And, so there's been a lot of struggles and ups and downs and highs and lows. And I think that's what a lot of things that you do in life.
Vance Johnson joins us here. He's a candidate for Granville County Sheriff. Joins us here by way of our Local Talk program. We are live by way of all of our social media, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever you name it. Of course, live on nextdoorradio.com and the Google and Apple Store, part of the app. So talk a little bit about why now? Why run for Granville County Sheriff, part of the Republican Party? Why run right now?
Right now, let's see. It sounds a little odd, I guess, for how I kind of reached this decision, because it's been well over a year since I was first thinking about it. Something that I think people really need to know about me is that when I first thought of doing this, it was because of the deputies, the detention officers, and the employees at the sheriff's office. I feel like there's so many people that go to work and do such a fantastic job that are absolutely not getting the credit that they deserve. Have they had a black eye in the past? Absolutely. I mean, I don't think anyone can deny that. But I think that my reasoning for getting into this is that the way you're going to rebuild trust, because I keep hearing rebuild trust in the community, is that starts within the organization. And if they don't trust in that organization, you're never going to spread it out in the community. They need someone, they need a leader that can come in, and that I'm not going to require you to be loyal to me over your integrity. Your integrity in treating people the right way is first and foremost to me. So, you cannot support me and work for me. I just want you to come to work, because how you represent me is that you have integrity and you respect people. That's how you represent me. So, I would never require a deputy to support me. They can vote however how they want to vote. But when they're working, they're going to represent me in the community with about full integrity and respect. And I don't think that's unreasonable to ask. And I think that they need that. And I would say to those deputies and detention officers, go home and think about that. Think about, wow, you hear so often, stop me if I get long-winded now, Trey, but,
Preach on, my friend.
Think about how often, from their perspective, I want them to think about, are you getting adequate training? Do you have the staffing needed to do your job in the right places at the right time? I've got concerns with that. But they need to be asking themselves that. I think that this whole political, even in the primary races and even some now, there's a lot of talk. I hear people all the time, oh, you're going to fire everybody. And that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, from a law enforcement executive experience that I have, you never go in and fire everybody. It makes absolutely no sense. So that's just something that I think that gets talked about in the community. It gets spread in the community. You got to remember that a lie travel halfway around the world before the truth ties its shoes.
That's a good point. I might steal that, by the way. Not just, I like that. Again, Vance Johnson joins us here by way of our local talk program, Decision 2022, part of our social media, also on nextdoorradio.com and the Nextdoor Radio app, available by the Google and Apple Store. So I want to think of we're going to talk about the election here in just a second, but I want you to think of 3 different things, all right, that you would, if you had the opportunity to be elected the next Granville County Sheriff. Think of 3 different things that you would go in and try to facilitate right away.
My first I've got several priorities. I think that the first priority has got to be the safety of the citizens. That's first and foremost on my mind, and it should be first and foremost on the citizens' mind. And I think that look, there's times that there's 2 deputies to respond to calls in this county, and I say that in that, you may have a deputy going to the mountains to transport a mental patient, and now you've got 2 deputies to respond. Now, to the average person, that really doesn't mean a lot because you don't need a deputy. But I would say this: get in your car and drive from Wilton to Grassy Creek, and imagine during that time that your house is being broken into. Now it matters that there's only 2 deputies to respond. So, I think that some things, there's certainly ways to address that. I think we need minimum staffing. You've got to require some minimum staffing to be available, some differential policing, some, data-driven type patrols and where we place our officers. So that's a priority. Safety is number one, and I think that's one thing that we need to address very quickly is, response times and how we respond to crimes. I would say another priority, it's a huge topic, the school safety. We need to do a better job. I went to the school safety summit and listened, and I think they're doing a fantastic job. So I'm not being critical of the systems that are in place. I think we need to be moving forward in a way. As your sheriff, I want to sit at the table with the commissioners and the school board and the superintendent and the county manager, and let's figure out, how we can hire deputies to be school resource officers and put them in all the schools. I think we've got the resources already there to make that happen. Part of the problem is hiring them because there's a shortage there. But you set short and long-term goals. So we should have a goal of having a school resource officer in every school. It's an absolute necessity, in my opinion. School safety, I think we need to be involved in, it's crime prevention through environmental design. So we should be at the schools talking about, what things are in place to prevent crimes, from a building perspective. Trim your bushes so nobody can crawl through a window kind of thing and be hidden. It's a lot of different things like that with school safety that I think that it's important.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about that kind of stuff until something happens, and that's a great point.
Right. And that goes way back. I could give you specific examples of how that works, but I mean, it's and where it comes from. Let me give you one so
Absolutely.
you know. Blockbuster Video. I'm showing my age, right?
No, hey, I remember it.
Yeah. So you go into Blockbuster Video, there's one entrance, and you have to go by the counter. They always spoke to you and made eye contact with you. When you got a video and went to the counter, there was only one way out. You checked out and you went out that one exit. It was all crime prevention through environmental design because people don't commit crimes when you recognize them, so they were making eye contact. There was only one entrance and only one exit, so you had to go by the employee if you were going to steal something. So it's been, these types of things have been done for years. Wow. And it's something that I think we can do a better job probably in our school system with our school buildings and our school staff. You said 3 priorities. The first one I think I've already talked about. When we talk about rebuilding trust, look, trust starts at the top. It starts, stops, ends with me. It has to be that way, and it will be that way. I will expect my officers to have integrity and treat people with respect. And when that happens, we then earn trust. You earn it. You don't demand it. You don't create it. You earn it, but it starts from within. So it can't start unless it starts with me. So that's a priority. Day one, guaranteed. It starts immediately. You know, people are held accountable. But also this is something we fail to do in law enforcement. It's horrible. And I try to point it out all the time. You know, you don't catch a deputy doing something wrong. You catch him doing something right. Because the wrong things are going to happen. They're going to get pointed out. You don't have to go chase it down. You need to go chase down the good things because we're not giving them the praise that they deserve. It's a thankless job. You need to find the good things. So that's another priority, is to rebuild that trust within that organization. Within the organization, not the community first, because it'll never work if there's not trust in that organization.
Vance Johnson joins us here by way of live in studio here, part of our local talk program, a special edition, Decision 2022. He is the Granville County Republican Party candidate for Granville County Sheriff. So let's kind of dive deep into the election integrity, talk a little bit more about that, and we'll go into a few more other things.
The election itself, you know, something that I have seen. I can't say that I'm not a politician because I am now. I guess that's what everybody says, right? But you know, it's certainly a little overwhelming and different. You know, I think that it certainly takes some adjustments. I think that social media certainly adds a huge aspect to it that probably hadn't been in place for very long. So I think that's kind of a new thing. You know, I've actually gotten to the point where I don't pay a lot of attention to comments and things on social media. I kind of avoid that kind of thing because I feel like if, you know, hiding behind a keyboard and you know, not having a real name or whatever just doesn't add value to anything. You know, I'm open to discuss whatever. You know, I find it a little surprising that I've got people that are just absolutely dead set against me, but they've never had a conversation with me, you know, and vocally against me, but yet have never had a conversation. And I'm okay with them being against me. Look, I'm not going to get all the votes. I realize that. That's not what I'm asking for. But I think, you've got to be reasonable in this and have conversations with all of the candidates. You know, if you're going to be a fair judge to this election, have those conversations with all of the candidates. You know, don't judge because I had a field training officer very early in my career tell me, don't form your opinion based on what others tell you. Go out and form your own opinion about people. You know, and so I see a lot of that. And look, things can get nasty and I'm sure divisive. I don't do that. I don't make those kind of comments. You know, I think we're at a point in this race where, you know, we've got three candidates that are, you know, good in their own respect. Mm-hmm. Certainly, I'm not. You know, I would never be critical of either of their character. You know, I don't attack them like that. There's no point in that. You know, I think the citizens need to be able to evaluate what is the right experience that's needed for Granville County. What is the right experience to guide it in the right direction? It's very difficult for someone to say, well, it's very easy for someone to say that we're going to do these things. But I immediately follow that up with, well, how did that work when you did it? Because I've done these things. So you got to be able to point to examples on how they were successful, because you're going to meet bumps in the road. Mm-hmm. That teach you when you implement things. So having ideas are great, but how did they work when you did them?
Vance Johnson joins us here by way of our local talk program, Decision 2022. I'm going to ask this question, and this will kind of wrap it up our segment here today.
That's too short.
I know. It was 20 minutes. I know. It's 20 minutes. So talk a little bit about what are you comfortable having a debate with the other two candidates for
there's been so much talk all over social media.
Exactly.
Debate. I mean, I've got, there's people that seem to be lining up a debate with me for me that I haven't even discussed that with any of these folks, right? So it's like, what I find surprising about all of this is that I understand that all three candidates are going to want something. You want to make sure it's fair. All three need to be comfortable with that, right? So that's where I'm at. I mean, I don't know where these people that are saying debate, and trying to set it up and all of that, I don't know where that comes from, right? Because quite honestly, if Mr. Fountain has said he wants to debate, Mr. Fountain has my phone number. He can call me, and we can go and discuss how we want to run a debate. We don't need some outside source to figure that out. So, I'm open to discussing it. Certainly, there's three candidates. I'd like them all three to be there. There's some things that I would want out of it, but I'm sure that Mr. Fountain and Mr. Smoot would too. Well, I mean, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So I'm open to that conversation.
Fantastic. So I'm going to leave this last couple minutes to kind of leave the floor open. No questions I'm going to ask. Just kind of, this is your time to say, hey, why should Granville County vote for you for the next Granville County Sheriff?
There's been a lot. I know that I think the GOP did a show last week on here. I watched part of it. I didn't even watch it all, to be honest with you, because I try to stay away from some of that social media stuff. I think that what people need to realize here is that, number one, the GOP don't represent Vance Johnson. Okay? Yes, I'm a GOP candidate, and yes, I'm a proud conservative candidate. But the GOP's never run a sheriff's office. Okay? So, that's where I think that people need to realize that there's a difference there. The GOP is supporting me because I'm their candidate. Certainly some of our values are similar, but they don't speak for me. I'm my own person. I'm the candidate for sheriff, and I can, that's the thing that you need to realize is I'm the one with the law enforcement experience, the right experience, not the GOP, not the Democratic Party. They're not sheriff candidates. So they don't speak for me. That's why I'm here speaking now. And I think that that's important for people to realize. And when you evaluate your candidates, again, evaluate what is the right experience, okay? Because we all have experiences in life. I'd never walk in this door and take your seat and think I could do your job.
You probably could.
I don't have that type of experience, right? But in this instance, I am the right choice because I have the right experience. So you evaluate that. I think there's a reason why. I'm sure I'm running over time, Trey. I'm sorry. Hey, I'm sure fine. That there's a reason why. The Constitution says to be qualified for sheriff, you got to be 21. Live in the county. And there's a reason why there's such a minimum standard there, because guess what? The people are going to hold you to a high standard, and they're the ones who need to decide, not the law. The people of Granville County need to decide. So they need to decide based on what experience fits. So it does sound kind of silly that a college-age person that's never worked a day in their life could actually be elected to sheriff, but there's a reason behind that. Because it's in the hands of the people. It's not in my hands. It's not in yours. It's in the entirety of the people. And I think that's important. Get out there and do your research and know who has the right experience.
Who is the right individual to lead Granville County?
Absolutely. And like I said before, I don't expect to get all the votes. I think that, I saw somebody make a comment the other day that, well, you're pushing me to support. No. Support who you think is the right person. Mm-hmm. Support them in the right way. I do not encourage you to attack other candidates. I think that's wrong. I've called people and said, please don't make that comment. Please delete it, that kind of thing. I think that's the wrong approach. But if you want to say that another candidate doesn't have the experience, then I think that's a realistic thing to say. Well, that's not an attack on anyone's character. That is a measure of what the citizens need to be looking at.
Again, have an open mind, no matter what party you're affiliated with. Have an open mind. Who is the right individual for the job? I absolutely love that, my friend. Hey, God bless you. Thank you so much for not only what you do for the community, for standing up in what you believe in. I appreciate that very much. Okay.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Trey. Really. I
Absolutely.
enjoy it. So.
Absolutely. So we're going to do this here once a week. I'm excited to welcome you back here next week. Again, my name is Trey Schnott. He is Vance Johnson. He is the candidate for Granville County Sheriff. Until next time, hey, God bless. Thanks so much for being a part of our show. We will see you later.